Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. This bulletin is coming to you live from our studio here at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. My name is Martin Asiedu-Dartey. Coming up this evening, government reduces per litre price of petrol by 0.36 pesewas, diesel by 2 cedis to cushion consumers against rising cost of petroleum. Also in the bulletin, the Office of the Special Prosecutor is taking steps to overturn the High Court's decision questioning its independent prosecutorial mandate. We'll engage legal experts on the implications of the ruling. We are live around the world on 3news.com. We are also streaming as well on Facebook and on YouTube, so do send us your messages and your thoughts, and I will be glad to let the world know what you're thinking. Before those details, though, let's bring you the news summaries with Christabel. Hello.
Hi, Martin. It's good to see you.
Yes. Good to see you too. Let's go.
All right. Now, the Chamber of Cement Manufacturers Ghana has petitioned government for an urgent review of recently increased free on-board values on key raw materials used in cement production, warning of serious implications for the industry and the broader economy. In a formal letter addressed to the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, the Chamber expressed concern over what it's described as steep and abrupt adjustments introduced without adequate stakeholder consultation, placing significant cost pressures on manufacturers. Away from that, the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yohono, has promoted 7 officers of the Tema Regional Police Command in recognition of their exceptional performance during a recent anti-robbery operation in Tema. The promotions announced on April 14, 2026 follow the officers' swift response to a robbery attack on a mobile money vendor at Tema Community 5, which led to the shooting of 2 suspected robbers and the recovery of a firearm, ammunition, and other exhibits. Former Germany international Gerald Asamoah has called for a more proactive approach in recruiting dual nationality players for the Ghana national football team as debate intensifies over potential inclusions ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. His remarks come amid renewed public discussion about whether Ghana should pursue foreign-born talents with Ghanaian heritage, including players who develop through European systems but remain eligible for the Black Stars. And finally, the Minister for Energy and Green Transition, Dr. John Abdullahi Jinapor, has appealed to the public to bear the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, as it carries out extensive upgrade works aimed at improving power reliability across the country. He explained that the ongoing interventions, though disruptive in the short term, are necessary to fix long-standing structural challenges in the electricity distribution system. All these are on our website, 3news.com. Martin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Christabel, for the news summaries. Let's settle for the details now. And we're starting from issues about fuel prices and what you are expected to see at the pumps from the 16th of April, which is tomorrow, Thursday. And government has announced a temporary intervention to cushion Ghanaians against rising fuel prices effective the 16th of April 2026, which marks the next pricing window. Under the directive, government will absorb 2 cedis per litre on diesel and 0.36 pesewas per litre on petrol. A statement signed by the spokesperson to the President and Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwachiofosu, noted that the measure is aimed at easing the financial burden on households, transport operators, and businesses amid increasing petroleum prices on the international market, which have driven up ex-pump prices locally. The intervention, approved by Cabinet, will remain in force for a period of 1 month. Authorities say that the move is part of the efforts to stabilize prices and protect livelihoods as global market pressures persist. Government, meanwhile, says it will continue to closely monitor developments on the global oil market during this period and assess the need for further policy adjustments. Let's go to the phone lines and speak to Richmond Roxon, who is the spokesperson for the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. Mr. Roxon, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening, Martin. Thank you for the opportunity. But your voice is way back. I don't know if it's possible to do some adjustments.
to increase my voice a bit. Okay, I'll try and do that. Hopefully you can hear me better. But while at that, are you able to help us understand what went into the specific amounts that we are hearing? 2 cedis for diesel, 0.36 pesewas for petrol, and all of these are per litre. What were the considerations before arriving at this figure?
Let me say thank you to you once again, and a very good evening to your cherished listeners. Upon assumption of office by His Excellency the President, fuel prices were around 15, 16, 17 Ghana cedis, depending on the OMC you're purchasing from, and then also the products you are purchasing. And we all recall that not too long ago, which was about 4 or 5 months back, fuel prices came down as low as 9 Ghana cedis at some OMCs. Unfortunately, in the last 4 weeks or so, we've had some disturbances on the international market. This is as a result of what's happening in our geopolitics, which has had a negative impact on fuel prices. And so you look at what oil prices have been. Today, it's hovering around the $110, $120 per barrel. They're looking at prices for international, for finished products. They've also seen significant increases. The good news is that when it comes to the exchange rate, the government has managed the fiscal space very well. We're still seeing around 10, 11 Ghana cedis to the US dollar, which has brought some significant stability on the market as compared to the 17 Ghana cedis that this government inherited. So averagely, we've seen fuel prices drop by about 40%. But unfortunately, because of the international market disturbances, prices have gone up. So as of now, petrol is trading around 13 Ghana cedis, with diesel trading around 17 Ghana cedis to a litre. His Excellency the President met cabinet last week at an emergency cabinet meeting, and a critical analysis of the situation, and saw the need to intervene as the government. There's been an extensive consultation between the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, led by the Honorable Minister, Honorable Dr. Chinapo, and then also the Minister for Finance, Honorable Kisel Atufosun, together with the stakeholders. We've spoken extensively to the regulator, extensively with the COMAC, Seaboard, and all stakeholders. And then the government has decided to intervene with diesel prices coming down by 2 Ghana cedis, and then for prices for petrol coming down by 0.36 Ghana cedis. And I must emphasize that the government is not subsidizing. When you say subsidies, the government is not subsidizing the prices for you to say that they're going to take taxes from somewhere to pay for these ones. The government has just been very innovative in looking at what the margins and taxes and levies are on the price of fuel, and then has given that respite to the good people of Ghana. And so what it means is that today, if you go to from tomorrow, if you go to the pump for diesel, you're going to see 2 cedis reduction on a litre. For a gallon, you're going to see 9 Ghana cedis. This is unprecedented, and I believe that it shows the commitment of government to the people of Ghana.
Right. So, and again, just for purposes of clarity, and so we all understand what you're saying. In fact, even some people I'm having conversations with say that it is not government.
You have just 1 minute remaining.
Apologies for that, but we'll try and get you back, Richmond Roxon, so you can at least put some question, give us some answers regarding this question I was asking. And the concern largely has been, or the lack of clarity is hovering around the fact that government is what? Paying. So now government is paying the 2 cedi for consumers. Is that what it means? And that if I go and I'm buying fuel, I know diesel is now, like you're saying, 17 cedis. So does that mean I'm going to be paying 15 cedis and that balance is going to be paid by government? Is that what the absorb means? And same for petrol. When we do get Richmond Roxon back on the line, I'll try and get some clarity regarding that particular question. But while we try to reconnect with Richmond Roxon, let's also engage Derek Hatcher, the research analyst with the Institute for Energy Securities. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Hatcher, as well. What are your immediate thoughts? You had earlier proposed or suggested a 1.65 reduction, 1.65 cedis reduction over the next 2 months, but government has increased that to 2 cedis for diesel. What do you make, or how do you assess this approach by government?
All right, Martin, thanks for the opportunity and good afternoon once again. So basically, the government more or less has exceeded everybody's imagination. We must acknowledge and then commend government for this timely intervention. For absorbing about 2 Ghana cedis for that of diesel and then about 36 pesewas for petrol, that is quite significant. If you are to do the calculations, you know that this is very, very significant. And the government doing it through policy intervention, especially on diesel, knowing that that is what is being used for the productive sector and the manufacturing sectors, then it means that the government is thinking through something good. And so we must commend government for this intervention. Short-term relief to pushing the consumer, the government must be applauded. The consumer should also bear and know that this is burden sharing that we are doing. And let us see how things go for the next 1 month.
I appreciate the analysis you bring to it, saying that this is actually a burden sharing policy that the government has rolled out. You had also suggested that 1.65 for 2 months, but government has done 2 cedis for 1 month. Yeah, you still think it's a commendable feat, although the time, the period is shorter?
Yeah, so the 1.65 that we're looking at several taxes and margins that, let me say, add up to the price build-up. So we were looking at the price stabilization recovery levy. We're also looking at the special petroleum tax. We're also looking at the road fund levy. We're looking at the fuel levy rate, which is a 1 Ghana cedi. All of them, our proposal was about 50% reduction for each of the line items. And so the government probably looking at its own fiscal, looking at its own balances, they realized that they could even do more to pushing the consumer. What we were against is that the government should not take a decision that is politically expedient and might not be economically viable. And so looking at the 2 Ghana cedis, the details as we do not have right now, which of the taxes and margins have been, taken into consideration to arrive at that final figure of 2 Ghana cedis. We do not know yet. But what we know is that there is going to be some reduction. And this reduction particularly for diesel, because that is towards the productive sector. And you might not know that is what the truckers are using. And you know, the truck people, or let me say the transport unions, have been so much on the high that is asking for some transport per increment. And so looking at what is happening right now, and that is what they make use of mostly. And then those in the agricultural sector, those in the manufacturing, the productive sectors, they all make use of the diesel. And so if diesel is having a 2 cedis reduction, now it brings that more or less at par with petrol. Because if you check previously, the difference between the petrol price and that of diesel was quite high. And so the government also thinking through and then reducing it by 2 Ghana cedis for diesel means that there's going to be some stability, and then the imbalance between petrol and diesel wouldn't be too much. And that will also help the productive sector. So in a nutshell, it's a good news for consumers, and we must commend government for this bold initiative.
And again, is appreciative that you look at the majority that consume diesel, largely the manufacturers and most of our trotters or public transport operators. So that clarity also helps as well. But we are still uncertain as to how the global prices will turn out. On the day of the announcement of the ceasefire, and I'm sure everybody would agree to the fact that these fluctuations we are seeing around the world is as a result of the developments in the Middle East. On the day of the announcement of a ceasefire, we saw that fuel prices dropped back to about $100 a barrel, and was about coming further down until, again, some further uncertainties. How do you advise government to monitor global developments vis-a-vis this 1 month reduction that we are to experience from tomorrow?
All right. So what is happening on a global scale? Basically, we do not have control over, but we can monitor it from our angle. The thing is that the ceasefire do not lie within our means. The market is quite sensitive when it comes to information. And so anytime that any of the major players or the stakeholders regarding the war makes a statement, it's able to either drive the prices up or drive the prices down. And so what is happening is more or less because of the information that is being given, and then the kind of, let me say, the forces of demand and supply. What we anticipate is that there is likely to be an equilibrium going forward. And that equilibrium that is going to be achieved will bring the prices down. We do not have that control to be able to drive prices down. We can monitor it. All the BDCs, what they are waiting for right now is just a wait and see. The wait and see is that they are anticipating that prices will fall below the $100 per barrel so that they'll be able to now stock in more and then be able to increase their reserves. Nobody will want to make savings when prices are high. They will not want to trade, let me say, store their petroleum products when prices are high. So they are waiting for wait and see. And that is what we are praying that we do not get to that level. So if the government has something to do, they should be able to assist the BDCs to be able to place the orders for those vessels that need to come. Because for the past 1 month, what we've been experiencing, the real effect is going to take effect from May going, because that is when the $100 per barrel and co. It's where that is where we expect them to be at the various shores and co. And right now, the BDCs are not placing any orders. What they are relying on is the old stock that they had in their reserves. So we are monitoring it from the angle. The other one is that the government should also try as much as possible not to let the exchange rate go higher, because for the past one week, we've seen that the cedi begins to depreciate. The cedi begins to depreciate, and it means that is also another cause for alarm. Whilst we are doing internal measures to be able to contain the situation, the exchange rate must also be kept under key. It must be more stabilized. If anything, this is the time that we expect it to appreciate so that the BDCs can get more respite for it. The other ones, when it comes to the insurance rate, the insurance cost, we do not have control over it, but we can monitor what we have control over. Take advantage of the situation, restock petroleum products for oil refinery, and let them also try to be able to refine some petroleum products. This will help stabilize the economy.
Right. My final question would be, should this reduction reflect, in the pocket of the everyday public transport user and probably like the manufacturing sector as well? Should consumers see some reflection in their expenditure? And if so, how soon? Should it also take immediate effect, as in like from tomorrow?
Hello, Martin.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, please, your question again.
Yes, I was asking that how soon first of all, should this reduction or absorption by government apply to the everyday user? Should we see a reduction from public transport users as well? And if so, how soon should this be?
All right. So for the consumer, the good news is that we should not be in anticipation for any increment when it comes to transport fares within the shortest time. And the reason being that there has been that agitation for transport fares to be increased. So if there is that kind of reduction right now, it means that the pressure on the transport union to increase it will not go high, and then that becomes some respite for the consumer. If the transport fares are not increased, then it means that the consumer is more cushioned, or that kind of discussion for transport increments can be put on hold for the meantime. For the consumer, those who are making use of it in terms of production, in terms of manufacturing and co, if you go to the pump and you have to buy fuel or diesel for almost 19 Ghana cedis, and you are now buying it for 16 or you are buying it for 14, that becomes savings to you, and that will not translate into your cost of production, where you now have to pass on the cost to the consumer. So in a nutshell, the consumer is protected because whatever thing that would have increased the cost of production has now been stabilized, or let me say reduced, because of the absorption of that Ghana cedi. So it is good news for all the consumers. Everybody should keep calm, and let's see how the 1 month unfolds. Tomorrow there can even be a ceasefire. There can be a ceasefire after the next pricing window, and probably for the first pricing window of May, we might come, or we might be selling petroleum products below the $100, or let me say $80 per barrel. That would be good news. So let us see how things go. If anything that we can do, let's keep praying that the stakeholders involved in the war we'll be able to arrive at that equilibrium where there wouldn't be any form of escalation again. We are looking for a de-escalation, and that is our main target, and that will bring more benefit to Ghanaians.
Derek, thank you so much for your thoughts on this subject.
Thank you.
And that is Derek Hatcher, research analyst with the Institute for Energy Securities, IES. And your thoughts are also welcome on this subject matter. Let us know what you make of this development, where the news is that government has announced a temporary intervention to cushion Ghanaians against rising fuel prices, or the potential for transport prices specifically to go up. And like the resource person alluded to earlier, there were conversations and agitations rising that public transport fares should go up because of the fact that global fuel prices were shooting up. In fact, in places like the United States of America, although there isn't any war there, they are actually seeing immediate impact of these fuel price increases. So right from the time the government of Ghana announced that they were considering a reduction they were considering a downward review of fuel prices, it caught continental attention. A number of people from different countries on the continent of Africa were using Ghana as an example, as in a government intervening when global issues were becoming problematic. So it gave the impression that the step government had taken was yielding some global attention. And then today that an announcement was finally made, we are seeing some more positive reviews for the government. So what do you make of this, the listener? You, the consumer, your thoughts are also expected or are welcome as we have this national conversation. We are fortunate to have back on the line joining us Richmond Roxon, who is the spokesperson for the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. Richmond, before we lost you earlier, I was asking about the clarity that many are uncertain about, which is that, is it that if I go to the pumps now and I'm supposed to buy diesel for, say 17 cedis, I'm now going to buy it for 15 cedis, and the 2 cedi absorbed by government means that government is now going to be paying the fuel company for that. Is that what it means?
Thank you, Martin, for the question. And, I deemed it a very important question. And I mentioned earlier that we must be very clear that this is not a subsidy program. This is not a subsidy program where the government is going to take fiscal cash or money from somewhere and to be able to support the price of petrol or diesel. What the government has done is that if you look at the price build-up for petroleum products, we have the cost of crude and cost of petroleum products, which will be cost of crude and the cost of finished product. You have the exchange rate, which plays a significant role, and you have taxes, margins, and levies. What the government has done is that it has taken a hit when it comes to the margins, and it's been innovative enough to reduce and in some cases abolish some of these in order to take a hit. And so monies that would have been due government of Ghana through the taxes, levies, and margins are what the government has put away in order to give the consumer some breathing space. So if you look at the price build-up and then what was supposed to be due government, the revenue implications, as I'll put it, the government is losing around 200 million Ghana cedis on this program. Those would have been margins, taxes, and levies that would have been due government that will not get to government again, because it is sacrificing that to ensure that diesel prices are reduced by 9 Ghana cedi per gallon, and then for petrol you see a cumulative reduction of about 2 cedi on a gallon.
Right. That's a good clarification you bring to the conversation. But there are those who are already raising the concern of the sustainability of this beyond 1 month. And clearly so, because we do not have control of what's happening externally. So is it that if the external developments continue beyond a month, government might take a further hit, or what are the considerations going forward?
So what the government has put in place is a comprehensive work plan for the fuel sector or the petroleum sector. And so this will be the first of many interventions that the government will make. We are all hoping that what's happening in the international global markets will see significant improvements and for us to record some stability. Because we all know that once it continues, it's going to have a negative impact on what the petroleum prices will be. But this is the first step of the intervention the government has taken. And after 4 weeks, the government will review His Excellency, the President, cabinet, together with the Finance Minister and then the Energy Minister, will review, and then we'll look at other interventions that can be rolled out, looking at what the system will be. And I must emphasize that this is for 4 weeks. Once we attain normalcy, this 4-week intervention will also come back to what the normal practice is supposed to be. And so we'll continue to monitor and then take the decisions as and when we move along, depending on what the factors are.
Right. We know that there have been meetings upon meetings, all in the bid to get to the announcement today. There are questions being asked about whether there should be a reduction in transport fares. I know that's not within your remit, but is it a consideration that now that government is absorbing this, so fuel prices do not go up and be transferred to the public transport user especially? Is it that you're also expecting that transport fares stabilize or go down? What's your reading of what expectations should be?
I can make reference to what the GPRTU is saying in the media. Not too long ago, I heard the deputy PRO for GPRTU, One Samuel, mentioned that the decision, GPRTU's decision to increase transport fares have been rescinded. This is because His Excellency the President and the government has shown good faith by reducing the price of diesel by 9 Ghana cedis. And so if what they say is anything to go by, we don't expect transport fares to go up. That is a statement that they've made categorically, and I'm sure that in the next coming days, they're going to put out an official communique to this effect, whether we don't expect, if you ask for my personal opinion, if you are going to, or if you intend to increase as a result of escalating prices, and you've seen the significant intervention, which has never happened in the history of this country, that you will see 2 Ghana cedi reduction by government and the 9 Ghana cedi on a gallon. I'm sure that you take a second look at your decision. So I'm not sure that they will proceed with that. And that will give some respite to the ordinary consumer and to the transport users as well.
Mr. Roxon, thank you so much for giving us further clarity on this, and thank you for your time as well.
Thank you very much.
Richmond Roxon is the spokesperson for the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, and also helping us put into better perspective what the intervention by government means. So it means that effective tomorrow, the 16th of April 2026, when you go to the pumps, you are likely to buy diesel less 2 cedis or whatever amount you used to buy it, because we know we have different OMCs and different pumps. When you do go there, whatever amount you are buying it for at today, you're supposed to see a 2 cedi reduction for diesel, and then 0.36%, 0.36 pesewas, 36 pesewa reduction for petrol. I'm sure the calculators will be working by now, trying to get how much that means. So if you're buying it for maybe 1 cedi, it means that government is absorbing 36 pesewas out of that 1 cedi. So you are likely to pay about some 64 pesewas for it, depending on where you buy your fuel. So that's what this means. So do let us know what you make of this development by government, or this intervention, on our various social media pages. And the news actually has been getting varied reactions already. And since the president earlier announced that government was going to consider a meeting, or we're going to hold an emergency meeting over the recent global developments and its impact on Ghana, the transport operators held on to a potential increase in public transport fares. So now that we know the specific amount that government has given regarding its absorption of these fares, what does the GPRTU make of it? We've been joined by Godfred Abulbire, who is General Secretary, Ghana Private Road Transport Union. Mr. Abulbire, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Yeah, good evening. I hope you are fine.
I am fine, thank you. Government has given out the figures for how much it is taking or absorbing when it comes to diesel and petrol. I'm sure you must have heard that by now. Has that changed your earlier position of a planned fare increase?
You know, I sometimes media people, when you ask a question and then the question suggests that somebody had taken a certain mention and then something happened and then they're making a sharp turn. We never, under any circumstance or anywhere or any platform, did mention that we were coming out to increase fare. We did not. We did not mention anywhere that we were coming to increase a lot of fare. We said that. And it was our next decision that we are going to absorb and hold on fare increment and to urge government to do something about the sharply rising fuel prices so that it will relieve the suffering of our operators. And government had actually intervened. And the something which you are saying had come out is what we had urged and asked for. So we did not at any point in time did mention that we are rushing to increase fare. We didn't say that.
Right. Yeah, that's a good intervention you explained there. And my question is also premised on the fact that, you know, I'm sure in the transport sector, you must have also heard that some private companies also in the transport sector had announced an increment. So it was more like a general consideration whether or not there were thoughts or meetings to consider price increase. But you say GPRT didn't have that on the table. But was that the expectation, the percentage government has announced, was it within the remit that you had in mind as an association?
Yes, actually, the government said that by next price window, it will come out as the margin government will actually hold and reduce. So coming out on the diesel and holding up at just 2 cedi or 2%, it is something that we welcome. And I believe by the next price window, if at all the crude market side comes down, government would still do something on that. We do return, but our study was not more than what the government has done.
Right. And what does this mean for regular transport users, your passengers or your customers, if I can call them that? Well, what does this reduction on absorption by government mean for them?
You know, those who actually feel the relief is the drivers and then the transport operators. That we have not increased fares, commuters will feel the same way. They will not think that we had increased and now that we are going to reverse. No. So they will still feel normal. Unless otherwise you did mention some other private companies. And I can tell offhand that it was about the VIP and then the OA who were actually trying to increase, and then the government said they should hold on until the last price window, which was yesterday, do come out for them to see whether it will come down or go up. So as of this moment, if they had gone up, then that is their own cup of tea.
Right. Maybe 2 final questions before you take leave of us. You said that the expectation you had in terms of how much government was going to reduce has been met. So operationally, you are quite okay with the percentages announced by government, right? 2 cedis for diesel, 0.36%. Okay, great.
We are quite okay with that.
Right. And it is for 1 month, clearly because there are external factors that influence whether or not prices go up or down, etc. Is the 1 month period enough for further deliberations and considerations?
Well, I would not even say 1 month. The fact that by the next price, if the push factor makes it come down again, there will be no cause for anybody to argue about a fair increment or whatever. But if the full factors push it up back to the same 18 where we are and then brought back to the 16 as now, there won't be any difference in what we had intended to do. Unless otherwise, when the next price window pushes the fuel beyond 18 to 19 or maybe 20, I could say, that will call for a different meeting with the sector minister for further discussions.
Right.
There won't be any change of idea.
Okay. We are grateful that you made time to speak to us, and from tomorrow we'll also touch base with you to see how things are faring. Thank you very much, Mr. Abulbiri.
Thank you.
And Godfred Abulbiri is the General Secretary of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, welcoming with broad arms, open arms, I should say, this announcement of an absorption by government regarding the cost of fuel prices. 2 cedi reduction or absorption by for diesel, and then 0.36 pesewas for petrol. And you, as the consumer, what are your thoughts? Do send them to us on Facebook and on YouTube, where this bulletin is streaming. This is 3FM 92.7. We are live around the world on 3news.com. That's our website. Do let us know what you make of this story, and we'll share that with the rest of the world. When we return, there is a storm brewing between the Office of the Special Prosecutor and the Attorney General. What exactly is the clarity we are all seeking from the decision of the High Court today? Stay with us. When we return, we'll let you know what it means.
Every woman deserves hair that looks and feels amazing.
Still listening to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition, live from our studio here at Adesanwe Kanda in Accra. Let's go to the courts now. The Office of the Special Prosecutor says it will challenge a High Court ruling that questioned its authority to prosecute certain criminal cases. The office insists that the decision by the High Court goes beyond its jurisdiction, arguing that only the Supreme Court of Ghana has the power to declare parts of an Act of Parliament unconstitutional. The ruling, delivered today by Justice John Nyantanyadu, ordered the Attorney General's Department to take over prosecution in the case Republic versus Issa Seidu and 3 others, widely referred to as the Rice Scandal case. The court also awarded costs of 15,000 Ghana cedis against the OSP. Despite the setback, the OSP maintains that its prosecutorial powers under the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017, Act 959, remain valid and enforceable until the Supreme Court rules otherwise. It has assured the public that all ongoing and planned prosecutions will continue. But the latest announcement has attracted diverse views. Private legal practitioner Justice Abdullahi, who spoke earlier on TV3's News Central, said if the prosecutorial powers of the OSP is taken away, the entire office will become a useless entity. Let's listen to Justice Abdullahi.
Because it is also disturbing, particularly because the decision of the High Court almost amounts to the interpretation of the provisions in relation to the Article 88 and also the provisions establishing the OSP. And I thought that if the High Court was minded, it probably could have referred that portion of it to the Supreme Court for interpretation. That would have been ideal from where I stand, because the conduct about the decision as made by the High Court amounts to an interpretation which it does not, or which it does not have that authority to do. So there is no jurisdiction of the High Court that allows it to interpret provisions of this nature. It can apply, but definitely not to interpret it in the light that it has done at this point. Now, having said that too, you would literally agree with me that the entire setup of the OSP and its machinery, its structures are literally set up for the purposes of these. From this angle, that is the prosecutorial angle. So once you take out the prosecutorial authority from it, the entire office becomes a useless entity. And so you will not need that office to really continue in its operations, going forward, if this decision is allowed to stand. It literally takes away the foundation of the OSP. And the OSP would be useless and meaningless to exist in our books if this decision is up to pay.
So that is the voice of Justice Abdullahi, who is a private legal practitioner. Let's engage another private legal practitioner, Martin Kwebu, who has joined us on the line. Mr. Kwebu, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, good evening. Evening.
Right. To start with, what is your understanding or your interpretation of what's happening? Is it that the High Court, does the High Court have jurisdiction to determine whether or not the OSP can prosecute cases, or that's solely left to the Supreme Court, as we are being told?
Well, you see, this answer, what I'm going to say, it's my appreciation of the law. But by all means, lawyers don't agree, okay? Lawyers have different perspectives. Simply, what the judge did was applying the law, that's applying the Supreme Court, and seeing that for him, there has to be specific consent or a fiat from the Attorney General to the Special Prosecutor before he can prosecute. That's the judge's opinion. It can, it's grounded in law, right? Yes. You'll find 1,001 Supreme Court decisions that will support him. But this same decision is come to, you give it to another judge or another lawyer, and you come to a different decision. So for me, because this matter is also more or less, when I say this matter, not this matter like this Republic versus Seidu, but the issue of whether the Special Prosecutor can prosecute independently of the Attorney General. is before the Supreme Court. That's a Noah Adamsi case. So because we will get a Supreme Court decision in it, I'll wait it out. Wait for the Supreme Court to give a final pronouncement. So yes, we can give our own individual opinions, and you can't fault the individual opinions because they can also be grounded in law. The main point I'm making is that there are things to be interpreted. Because we have different philosophies in law, we don't have one answer. That's a problem, or let's say that's the nature of law. And that's how sometimes you say lawyers don't say the truth. The same provision, you can get 3-4 different answers. So ultimately, it depends on the person in charge, the person who has the authority. In this case, the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is a policy court. So they can look at it. We all agree that we need an office of special prosecutor. That much we do. But it's how it operates which is the matter. You see, it's how it operates which is the matter. And especially the main problem that we are facing now is that the way we created the office of special prosecutor, we've given the special prosecutor too many powers. It's as if now he's an angel. And we are just finding out that a special prosecutor is also human. We see how they have been allowed the Kuriata to escape. So it sent us a warning that, hey, it's a great mistake to just think that if you put any other person who is not a politician, then it means that that person is so far to work excellently. We forget that any other person too can have friends. Any other person too can have family relations. Any other person too can have personal frailties. You see it? So the problem we are facing right now, it doesn't matter that what we are talking about is that, can special prosecutor prosecute every case without going back to the Attorney General for permission? If you dig deep, the underbelly of this current problem is that we're just finding out that no, we've given power to somebody we cannot trust. That's where the whole problem is. That okay, Tisi Jabin is close to Gabi Ochridako and Godfrey Dami, and they brought him, and their relationship with Ekufuado, and so it means that you do things soft for the MPP. That's the actual problem we are trying to solve. Right. No matter how you look at the way, can special prosecutor prosecute without going back to Attorney General, etc. The real meaning is what I'm saying. It's this man who is in charge, he was appointed by President Ekufuado, whose relations and friends brought him. So obviously, he's there to do their bidding, and we've already seen it and how he allowed Oforiatta to escape. So he's giving us a cautionary tale. Right. We have to sit for all the 8 years for him to cause more damage. That's the real matter we are trying to solve. Okay. We have to sit for Kike Jabin to cause more damage, because if you can allow somebody who has 5 cases around his neck to escape, what else can you not do? So for me, that's why I say it's good this ruling has come at this time. The judge's decision can be supported 100%. But remember that the people saying the opposite, they too, you can support their decision 100% in law. That is how come we are saying that. So then, what is the law is what the person who has authority to decide says is the law. Okay. In other words, yes, the lawmaker is the judge. Other lawyers can have different opinions, and it's not that they are wrong.
Okay. Thanks for that. And finally and briefly, when Parliament passes an act, is it only the Supreme Court that can interpret it, or it falls within the explanation you've given us earlier?
Now, you see, when you say act, as for an act, so let's give this education. An act of Parliament, yes, that one every judge can interpret. It's not restricted to the Supreme Court. The one that is restricted is when you say an act of Parliament is contrary to the Constitution, when you are doing detailed interpretation, that is the one they'll say is for the Supreme Court alone. But there is also a rule that the Supreme Court says when you find a constitutional provision very clear, that somebody is doing something against a constitutional provision is very clear, you can just apply and say, oh, no, this thing you are doing is different from what the Constitution says. So, but now this is the catch.
as to whether what the judge has done in this case is very clear or not, then we go back to what the Supreme Court thinks, not what I think. Or if you ask me straight away, what it did is very clear. If you ask me, but don't forget, I'm not the Supreme Court. And each answer, let's emphasize, each answer you give, you can find legal argument and legal authority to back. That's why I say we come back to the problem. Right. That's why people say lawyers, we don't say the truth. One thing, this one says it's A, that one thing, another person says it is B. So that is the problem. Okay. That is the problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Counsel, for your time this evening. And as always, Martin Asiedu, private legal practitioner, bringing some perspective to this debacle where the OSP and the Attorney General and a High Court judge are all in a mix of public conversations following a ruling that was given today by a High Court, more or less, pushing the fact that the OSP does not have prosecutorial powers. Mind you, that same issue is at the Supreme Court. And so, like you heard Martin Asiedu say, we all are waiting to see what the Supreme Court's final position will be on this act. And also, now that the judge in question, Justice John Nyadu, ordered the Attorney General to take over a case already being prosecuted by the OSP, what does that mean? A lot more questions than answers, but we'll try and find as many of the answers to the questions you have for you in subsequent bulletins. Time now, though, for the latest in the world of business.
FM 92.7. Coming up tonight, road transport operators suspend planned fare hikes as government moves to stabilize fuel prices with new subsidy measures. This story and others lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Road transport operators across Ghana have announced a decision to hold transport fares steady, citing ongoing government interventions aimed at reducing and stabilizing petroleum prices. Government has announced a temporary intervention to cushion Ghanaians against rising fuel prices effective April 16, 2026, which marks the next pricing window. Under the directive, government will absorb 2 Ghana cedis per litre on diesel and 36 pesewas per litre on petrol. In a joint statement, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union and the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council say they have agreed to suspend any adjustments to existing fares following engagements with the Ministry of Transport and other stakeholders. The operators say the decision is in response to government's intervention to reduce and stabilize petroleum prices, including the planned reduction and suspension of some pricing margins in the next pricing window. We will be following this and give you updates in our subsequent bulletins. Moving on, the Ghana Statistical Service has reported a marginal increase in producer inflation, with the ex-factory prices of goods and services rising by 1.5% in March 2026. This represents a slight uptick of 0.1 percentage points from the February rate, but a significant drop of 22.9 percentage points compared to March 2025. On a month-on-month basis, producer prices also increased by 0.7% between February and March this year. Sectoral data show mixed trends across the economy. The mining and quarrying sector, which carries the largest weight in the producer price index at 43.7%, recorded a slight decline in inflation from 4.1% in February to 3.9% in March. Meanwhile, the manufacturing sector saw some improvement, with inflation moving from minus or negative 2.9% to negative 2.2%, indicating a gradual easing of pricing contraction. That brings us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also, for more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com.
With AJ.
Are you tired of the same old routine? Need a break from the stress and chaos of everyday life? Well, step into the 3 Lounge, your world of absolute relaxation and great music with yours truly, AJ Akwako Sapon. Welcome to the best mid-morning show in the capital and beyond. This is 3 Lounge with yours truly, your radio princess, AJ Akwako Sapon.
Love it. I love it. It's great.
Kickstart your week with Monday motivation. Shake off the Tuesday blues and get ready for midweek mania. Take a trip down memory lane on Throwback Thursday and wrap up the week with Funky Friday with myself and Helen Appiah Ampufo. Plus, enjoy exciting celebrity interviews, insightful conversation, engaging discussions on topics that matter, and there's a boatload of fun and easy activations that reward and appreciate you, our loyal listener.
If you are listening, we're manifesting money into your pocket this morning.
Amen. Don't miss out on the excitement. Tune in to 3 Lounge every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. with AJ Akwako Sapon, only on 3FM 92.7.
It's my number one.
92.7 3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition with me, Ray Kwampafo. The Ghana Football Association has presented 5 vehicles to key operational units under the FIFA Forward program as part of efforts to strengthen football administration across the country. The latest allocation covers 2 regional football associations, the Technical Directorate, the GFA headquarters, and then the Ghana Man Soccer Center of Excellence at Pram. The initiative completes an earlier commitment made by the association following a distribution of vehicles to 8 regions last year, with a pledge to extend support to the remaining regions and key units. GFA leadership stated that the vehicles are aimed at improving operational efficiency and supporting football development across the nation.
So first of all, we are extremely grateful to FIFA, led by President Infantino, for their vision to support football via the Forward program. I think that when we speak about the Forward program, Ghana has been a big beneficiary, and we have utilized this program for the benefit of the Ghanaian game. Just about a year ago, we gave away 8 pickups to the leadership of our 8 regional offices, with a firm promise that we were going to add up more. These vehicles obviously are used for the development and promotion of football at the grassroots level. I'm extremely happy, and I think that gradually we are laying a solid foundation for development of the Ghanaian game. And I hope that every beneficiary, whether at the regional level, whether from the Technical Directorate, will put these vehicles to its fullest of users.
Well, that was GFA President Ket Okraku. Let's now cross to Europe, where there's UEFA Champions League action later tonight. The headline classes, Madrid face Bayern in Munich, where the German side do carry a slight 1-goal advantage after a 2-1 win at the Bernabeu. Vincent Kompany says that his side are going all out for the win.
I think one of the big things that I try to stress all the time is we have a lot of respect for this Real Madrid team, always. And we did it before we played in the Bernabeu, still now. For sure, like I said, we are preparing for the best version of Real Madrid, and the best version you saw against City this year. And for sure, I think that the results that they're having right now is not a reflection of the talent of this team. The talent of this team, if you go through each position, it's still one of the best teams in Europe by far. So that's the reality. But then also, I'm a little bit of these type of stories. They're not the real stories for me, because I'm more. What is the history of Barcelona? What is the history of Atletico Madrid, of Liverpool, of Bayern Munich, of PSG, Arsenal? So you go through every team in this competition at this level, and everybody can tell a pretty good story about when they did something incredible. Madrid can, and we can. And when we went to Inter Milan last year and we lost 2-1 at home, and we went to Milan, we were 100% sure that we could still win this game. So when Real Madrid feels that they can still win, I believe them. But then I focus on what we can do to win this game at home, to hurt them. I mean, I don't have a real connection with anything other than I want to win this game tomorrow. I want our team to believe we can win this game tomorrow.
Well, that was Vincent Kompany, who is the head coach of Bayern. You can get updates of the Champions League games on our social media platforms at 3 Sports GH. That's how we bring an end to Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. We'll be back again same time tomorrow. My name is Oreku Ampofo.